How confident are you that your camp parents will read and act on your emails? Hello, Camp Mavericks, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast, brought to you by UltraCamp and Camptivities and the brand new Camp Recruiting and Retention Playbook from Joanna Morton-Smith and me. I'm Travis Allison, a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I am the founder of Camp Highlight, a sleepaway camp for kids of LGBTQ families on Oprah's favorite thing list. And I am also a camp consultant.
Hold on. I'm so glad you're here, Chris. It's just
Me
the two of us
too.
today.
It's
Uh,
it's just a chat between two friends. I love it.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I have so we're basically jumping off from my question. I have been doing a lot of thinking in the last 3 or 4 months, partly from reading the book, writing the book, partly from just thinking about the part that I find camp struggle with the most. The part of this, one of the things that camp struggle with the most that I have insights into. And so I wanted to talk this through with you. I I want to talk today about how we communicate with parents. I want to talk about the nitty gritty, like how do we get our parents to open and read our emails and act on
Mm,
them, and then sort of front loading and prepping with them, thinking about what we need to do and how much. I think there's lots to explore in this that we haven't spent a
that's
lot of time
that's a lot. That's a lot, Travis.
in. Yeah,
I I mean, just if you want to start with the email thing right away,
yeah,
I want to throw a wrench in there. First of all, one of the things I want to discuss was that is email working? And I
no,
don't I don't know. There's all sorts of analytics. There's all sorts of products that can analyze who's opening your emails. I know we use them for Camp Highlight. But getting parents to read is, as every camp director knows, getting parents to read anything, whether it's something you
yep,
send home, whether
yep,
it's something you send home with kids, something you mail home, something that you email them, it's something like you've got to send them like 4 or 5 or 6 times before a majority of them register that they've received anything from you.
right,
Sending something once is the surefire way of people to say, I never received it.
totally.
So what I've been thinking about since you proposed the topic was just like rethinking email. Now, I don't
Mm,
necessarily want to go back to postcards or physical newsletters. It's just it'd be great for us to explore what other ways can we reach out to parents or have them engage with us
Yep.
that makes sense for what we're doing, which I want to get to because I think too much communication is not really what I'll speak for myself. That's not what I want either.
Right.
I don't want
Right.
parents to think that they can reach me every minute of the day, pre-post, and during the season, because
Yeah.
that's just not realistic.
Yeah. So, if you don't mind, I want to start with some sort of the technical side of this instead of the emotional side of it. I mean, you said you don't want to go back to postcards and physical newsletters. I kind of think that that can work. And I mean, I know a camp who does a ton of great fundraising, and they got someone to start up their fundraising thing, the fundraising division, like he was a volunteer board member. And his condition was that the camp starts to produce a physical newsletter again twice a year. I will take on this job if you do a physical newsletter. Now, this is not necessarily, it's not specific to communicating with parents. It's communicating to people of a certain age who might be donors. But interesting to me is like something physical. Um, I love the idea of reinforcing stuff with postcards, especially for American camps. Postcards are so much cheaper than letter mail. They're the same price in Canada, but it is an inexpensive way to get something in their hand, give them something to do. And so that's one thing. I mean, off of how we've been communicating as an
Mhm.
industry for the last 10 years. Um, but I think that, as I say, every camp director I talk to, their biggest complaint is that parents don't read. And we need to acknowledge that and stop sending things the same way that they're not reading and complaining to each other about it.
Exactly. I listen, I'm just to clarify what I said before. I love the idea of a physical postcard or newsletter. I love the idea of it. But then we run right into the practical aspect of that. One, yes, it's cheaper to send postcards in America than like a full letter. That's fine. But I'll tell you, and when we started Camp Highlight, we would send postcards home because Our thinking was, you know what? You get that in the mail. It's got dates on it, information. You slap it right up on the fridge. You're looking at it every single day. Love that. Over time, as camp got more successful, this got more expensive. It just became an expense, and we had to be like, well, okay, let's do what everyone else is doing with email. I don't know. I don't know if it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If we put the price aside, I think a postcard is a great way to interact with parents, maybe once a month or once every other month. If you have a really big event coming up, a donor event, registration dates, things like that, maybe a couple of times a year, that's
Yeah.
great. Because, like I said, they get it, they slap it up on the fridge. A newsletter is going to run into the same issue that we have with email. One,
Yep.
you
I
get
agree.
so much junk mail, both and snail. The chances that they're going to pick yours out to read it, I don't know. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. Like you said,
Yeah.
once or twice a
Yeah.
year might be
Yep.
cool because that's something you anticipate.
Yeah.
Every month, absolutely not. It's just
Right.
not going to reach people, in my
Yes,
opinion.
I
In my
agree. I think I've so many points to reinforce something big happening, send them a physical reminder. Now I mean, I got in the mail yesterday a card from our camp, and when I see it's from them, I open it because it's from camp and I care about camp. It's and we get a lot. I mean, we get a lot of mail because we're the same address for our business as well. So when I see it, I pick that out. So I wouldn't I wouldn't write that off. That if you write something that visually stands out and people know this is from our camp, I think they will open more things. I totally agree with you. For the time and money invested, you got to test the crap out of this. You have to know. You have to put something in that physical letter that allows you to know if that works to make people act, whether it's a unique link or tell us something hidden at 3/4 of the way through that says send Travis an email that says octopus, and we'll give you something special. And it's any of those things, like, you have to figure out how to test it, but I think it's different enough that it could work really well. And I don't know how much time we need to spend on this, but email can work very well if you're smart about it and you learn from the email you sent before.
Sure. Sure. And if you are, what's what I'm looking for? If you're judicious, like if you are careful about the emails you send out and the content of those emails, I mean, when we started, I was thinking like we only sent emails out for, I think when we started, we sent emails out for only important things because it
Yep.
was at the time, it was a two-man shop.
Yep.
And, if I wasn't doing it, the other director was doing it. We didn't have a lot of hands on deck and a lot of things fell through the cracks. So we couldn't take on a lot of like
Yeah.
monthly sorts of stuff. But yeah, email, I'll be honest. I'll be really honest to
Hmm.
you and to listeners.
Hmm.
I can't stand it. I
Yeah.
can't stand it. Even now, oh, it's a lot to admit. Even today, uh, the Camp Highlight newsletter went out, and this is like the first one I haven't written in
Yeah.
a while. Did I read it?
Not yet.
No, I didn't. I didn't
Yeah.
read it. I
Yeah.
skimmed it real quick, even though there was dates and information that
Right.
theoretically I should know about because people will ask me about it, but I
Yeah.
didn't read it. And I discarded it, and I'm probably not going to look at it again. I will
But
say that just one thing, because I don't want to leave the physical thing.
mhm,
What really has been successful
mhm.
has been sending snail mail to the campers.
Yes.
That
Yes.
gets read. And in the beginning, we used to send the registration dates in a letter to the campers,
Right.
who
Yep.
then would get mail, which is such an event when you're 9 and 10 and 11 years,
Totally.
such an event to get a piece
Yeah.
of mail addressed to you.
Yeah.
And then they would run to their parents' room, jump on the bed, and be like, "These are when the registration dates are." That was how we got the information out.
Right.
I don't know if that's realistic for everyone, but if you want a family to see something, send it to the kid.
Well, in that illustrates two things that I think about a lot. Jonah Warren Smith makes this point that when we are marketing camp, we have two clients. Client number one is the camper. Client number two is the parent. And if you run stuff through client number one, it'll get to client number two. It's the same as a staff training lesson we always used to do, that we would say, and we teach it different ways. We would always say that when you're with a family, you cannot go wrong by focusing on the child. You can answer parents' questions, but always be focusing on the child. That shows parents your priorities. It shows you care about the kid. I never want a camp counselor to be turn their back on a brand new camper to be talking to the parents. I want them, if the parents are asking questions, one eye on the parents, but focus on the kid. And so I think that is an important sort of reinforcement for that. Send stuff to the kids, even electronic stuff. Please pass this on to your camper. Will get things read, get them opened, and get everybody to appreciate them. I think because you're going through camper number one to get to camper number two.
That split, we call it client versus customer, is
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
we have to, the client is the child,
Sure.
but the customer is the parent.
Yep.
So, and we work with our staff to talk about how
Nice.
we treat
Yeah.
those two different
Yeah.
populations, because they have different needs and they have different desires.
Yeah.
What I used to, I love this, was sending a physical postcard home, to sending an email out as we normally do, then
Yeah.
sending a postcard home to the kid saying, your parents received an email with
Yeah.
all the directions and the registration dates, and we don't put the registration dates on the postcard, then we create chaos in the household. Because on
Right.
that postcard we say, space is limited, good
Yeah.
luck. And then the parents absolutely find out. It's
Yeah.
like, did you get an email? Chris said you sent an email. And
Totally.
I love that energy.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yep.
are there, I was thinking about this. Well, okay, so we've been talking about sort of just blasting information out.
Yeah.
Other than, I mean, I've been trying to think. If we can, I want to transition to just talk like parent communication in general, like during the season. If you have anything
Yes.
else,
Yes.
yeah.
Let me open up or just put a one more thing into the pre-camp communication and what that looks like.
Okay.
Everybody, so this is based on a lot of research. The interesting thing about email communications is it's so much more measurable than anything else we do. And so there are some big studies on email communication. Everybody says they hate getting email, but most people open most of the emails they get. And it's really, I mean, it's a bit different if you have Gmail and you have the priority inbox or the updates, different tabs. But that's why if you sign up for an email, that person will often say, hey, make sure you put us in your inbox tab instead of your promotions tab. But people read more emails than they admit to. And emails are way more effective than other forms of communication for marketing, like 43 times more effective. $1 spent on email marketing goes 43 times as far as $1 spent on an ad. And so
That's
the email
fascinating.
marketing is incredibly effective, and it allows us to test stuff out because it doesn't cost us much to send, and we can see what makes parents open these emails. Then if we figure that out for 1 year, then the next year is like, okay, they open the emails, what makes them take the action that we want to? Let's run that experiment. And I my great frustration is that camps feel like they send the families register, they send them an email with a PDF of the parent handbook, and they're done. That will not work. They won't read it. You'll be mad. They'll be mad, etc. So what I recommend is that you send on the parent handbook, put stuff onto a page on your website, and then break up all of the pieces of the handbook into smaller chunks and set them at the time that the parents need them. They don't need the packing list in January. They don't need to be reinforced about the packing list. You need that 2 weeks before. And then vary the media with which you give them messages. So you might start a camp podcast. You might put a GIF in an email message that says, click to watch this video, show your camper this video. I mean, each one of those is something that is different than a whole wall of text. And I mean, I could spend a lot of time on how we write emails. That's incredibly important. That goes back to the handbook problem. There's just too much text to read on a screen and absorb. So how do we break it up and easy to read? So all of those things are easy to measure, easy to implement and test, and easy to improve every single year because it's so easy to measure. So I would encourage people, like, think about that. Think about how you do that between registration and arrival day, and reinforce stuff with paper mail delivery, change the media through which you give the message. And if it's an incredibly important message, like forms are due on this day or your child cannot come to camp, then do all of the media. Send them an email, send them a postcard. Like, that's important to the function of the camp. you will reinforce it all over the place. So,
I I feel like we've been saying that since the beginning. Use all of the media,
yeah,
which then also reinforces you're going to need somebody who's this is their function.
right.
Maybe not their sole function, but I know from doing a startup is that marketing is so hard and people
Yeah,
find marketing impenetrable because
yep,
a lot of the data that you just unloaded on people is, I mean, it's real, it's tested, and it's also invisible to people getting started to this. Like this is
true.
there's a real science to it, and
Yeah,
it's hard to know what's going to work while you're
yeah,
spending your dollars on postcards or email services or whatnot.
yeah.
Very interesting.
The thing about parent communication, though, is that you really can't start from scratch and do it all right. Is that you pick the things that, if I am starting a brand new camp, I'm sitting at a parent handbook and I am picking 3 things between now and registration that they absolutely must know and react to. And I am writing those 3 emails and a couple of social media posts that say, read your email about this. And I'm doing a video for each one of those. So that's my starting point. So I've done 4 pieces of writing effectively: handbook and email, and a couple of reinforcing things. The next year, I'm filling in all the spaces in between. Next year, I've run camp for a year. I found out that parents don't know that you're supposed to bring a separate pair of socks for dance versus the ones that so now, okay, now I figured out how to work that in, but you can always build on it. And so the time that you put into this is not wasted. It is, you start with the stuff you can do, add, push yourself to do a little bit more than you really want to, I suppose, or have to feel like you have time to, and then you have that base, like you've built a foundation. Now you can add in the other pieces. So I'm always conscious that I'm comfortable with saying, here are all these things you can do. But I mean, that's my job. Here's all the things that I've researched that I know will work for families, and you can do them. And the immediate impact of that is just shut down. Like, yeah, no. As a camp director, no. I get that. And so the
It's
thing I
so
want to
much,
say is, you
Travis.
start with something, you build a foundation, use it again the next year and add something else in.
Can
Just
I make
because
a
I say you
distinction
can do
though?
it doesn't mean you should do it all.
Exactly.
Yep.
Underline that.
Yep.
I want to make a distinction though, because we kind of did it here without defining our terms. But
Sure.
like
Yeah.
when we talk about parent communication that quote unquote works,
Yeah.
do we want parents to read or we want them to act?
Right.
And I think that's a really powerful distinction because reading and understanding something is really different from pay your balance today,
Yes. Yes.
And I find that because I've been thinking while you've been speaking, and it's true. Like I know through conversation the parents see the emails,
Yeah.
but sometimes when those emails are around, we need you to do something.
Yeah.
Uh, Getting them to act on it is different. So I'm
Yeah.
just wondering. I guess I'm just wondering, are we are those different sort of marketing tools? Is it different to get you to see something versus act on it?
Yes.
Like, does our conversation stay the same so far?
And no, and there's lots of research to support this too. If you
Hmm.
send out an information email, you can make it splashy, and put in lots of photos and have a camp logo at the top. But if you want people to act, you send them a plain text email.
Hmm.
Plain text email says business to them. You make the call to actions easy and easy to find. One thing I've started to do when I've got a fair amount of information for camp directors or people in one of our programs is I start with a TLDR, which is a funny internet term for too long did not read. And so I give them, here's the one thing you need to know, here's the one action. And then I write them the normal email. It's so great to reach out to you. I'm excited about this program, like all of that stuff. But I put it right at the very top. And it happened to me this week. I did not do it. I put the call to action lower down in the email. A person saw the body of what I was writing about and skimmed it. It's like, oh, this is great. How do I get in on this? And it was immediately the next sentence after the thing they just read. Like, it was right there, but I didn't put it up. Like, people are busy. Everybody's overwhelmed. Give them the easy stuff. And if they want to play around with the flowery things that you like to write, they can get there. But
Cool. I just wanted that in this conversation because I think that that's a powerful distinction.
yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
I've done the same, like the 3 bullet points at the top. This is what this email contains. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
Then the long form. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to our newsletter, blah, blah, blah. But
yeah,
that's a really great way to think about it as well.
yeah.
Mhm.
So let's go to the summer and how we think about communications once campers are there.
I have a lot to say
New
about this.
programs. Good.
So I
Away
need
you go.
everyone to get ready. First of all, before camp, I want 100% of the parents to read and act on 100% of the things that we send home. And I'm gonna be very honest and vulnerable. During camp, I don't want to hear from parents unless I contact you first. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know how that sounds like, but you have my kid there. I
Right.
understand. But what you don't understand is that you're one of dozens,
Yeah.
if not hundreds of parents who want information on the daily about their child. Now, I I don't make this too much about me. However, every mealtime, every mealtime, do you know what I was doing, Travis? Pulling kids out of the dining hall and taking a picture of them with like a thumbs up in front of a tree outside the dining hall to send
Gross.
to parents as proof
Yeah.
of life. Because
Right.
I would be
Yeah.
besieged with emails and text messages and phone calls at night being like, in the on Facebook and Instagram, I didn't see a picture of my child. Are they okay? Did
Hmm.
they do this? And I'm like,
Hmm.
they're fine. I'll send you a picture. That was every meal.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
got to the point where I had to tell parents, listen, if you hear from us that your child is having difficulty, your child's having difficulty. If you don't, they're fine. And you just
Right.
got to trust it on that.
Right.
I know it sounds harsh, but like I just want to start the conversation with my extreme antagonism towards parents reaching
Yeah.
out daily at
Sure.
camp. But
Well, listen, that is an important, like, that's one of the three things in the beginning. Like, that's a message they must absorb. Every moment that we spend sending you something or talking to you about your child is a moment that we are not providing a good experience. Probably wouldn't say safe in that instance, but it's what I'm thinking. Um, a
but you
good
get
experience for your child, because I am taking staff, I'm pulling a counselor out to check in on the kid, and then I have to, all of that is time that we're not spending on your child. And I get it, parenting is incredibly stressful in 2023, 24. But if we prep our families right, that can help us. So that's, again, an important part of the communication. That's a thing. That's one of the three things for sure. You need them to get across. Here's how we communicate in the summer. Here's how we don't communicate in the summer. Here's what we can do, and here's what we might do. But I wouldn't even put any mites out there, because you don't want to open it, because that just means to them they're definitely going to do
parents
this
see
17
mights
times
as
a day.
shoulds. Yeah.
Yep.
Parents feel
Yep.
entitled when you say we might do this. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to be a jerk. I really don't. But I first of all, I'll get to that in a second. I love, and I'm going to do this next year, putting it in the parent handbook, how we communicate with you during the summer. I think it's important for parents to warm up to that and ask questions before the season starts. I love that idea. I'm implementing it immediately. I really don't want to come off as a jerk. Um, on the concept of like we might do this, I think if we ever tell parents like occasionally we'll let you know how your child is doing, they're going to be feel entitled to that information, and they're going to feel like, oh, if I didn't get a call this week, then I should call.
Yeah.
I think also in as part of like if we're putting this out in the parent handbook or in a newsletter or something, just let them know these are the situations in which you will hear from us. And one of those situations will not be your child is having a good time.
Right. Yep.
We're not calling to tell you that your child is having a good time.
Right.
I think that's important for parents to know. Maybe not stated like that, but similar, because driving that point home. Because
Yeah.
listen, we all know, like you said eloquently, we don't have time. There's too many kids, and all of them are nervous about camp,
Yeah.
and all their parents are nervous about camp. That's
Yeah.
that's a that's just the universal truth of the setting.
Yeah.
So uh, unless, and I will say this because I have worked with camps who have like a role at camp, which is purely parent coordinator,
Yep.
which is to reach out to camp. Sometimes they do it by cabin, like
Yep.
every day they'll pick a cabin and contact every parent in that cabin just to give an update.
Yep.
Um, if you have the infrastructure for that, if you have the funds for that, go off. Because let me tell you something, parents love it. If you
Of course.
don't, I would suggest not even attempting that. It's simply too
Right.
much, and the
Right.
parents will never, they're bottomless when it comes to,
Yeah.
they'll never get their fill of
Yep.
information about their child ever.
Yep. And I've even had camp directors say to me, I sent our kids away to camp for the first time, and then I turned into that parent. And I knew I fought it off, but in my head, I was like, I just want to know how they're doing. Like, I want to know if my sweet boy is, has friends, and like, I get like all of those things. I get it. But
And I feel like such a dinosaur because like flashback to the 90s when kids would disappear for 6 weeks. and
Right.
then they just come back, and
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
those were the days in summer.
It does. What so I think we're acknowledging that parents have some obviously legitimate concerns, and we can front load that, we can manage that as much as possible. Are there other sort of are there, maybe I'm asking the wrong person this question, but are there other ways we should be more empathetic towards parents, Chris?
Okay, hold on. I am not going to come across as the parent hater. I don't want to. That's not my point. But again, I'm just going to borrow from what you said. Every moment that I have to report to you
Yeah,
about just a status report for your child is a moment that I can't create this magic, right?
yep,
So it's not that
totally.
I hate talking to parents. I love parents,
Yeah,
because before I need them to be excited to get their kid excited. After camp, I need them to be excited to be a booster and get more people to send their kids to my camp, right?
right.
So like I understand that that is prize, and I am empathetic, but I think part of that empathy is really communicating what our role is during the year, during the season, vis-a-vis that communication, right? That I think that's the most empathetic we can be, is to set the expectations and the boundaries before the season starts. That
Right.
way, that way everyone knows what to expect, and there's no free floating disappointment
Yeah,
or discouragement. Like, oh no, uh, this camp isn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to have more communication. To which I can say, why would you think that? When we were
yeah,
very clear about what we're doing, every minute you're not hearing from us, what we're doing is providing a fabulous time for your kid.
yeah,
So I think that's the most empathetic you can be.
right.
I think post camp parents are my best friend because they're
Sure.
also my marketeers,
Hmm.
right? They're running their communities. They're talking about how great it was, uh, and I want that relationship to flourish. It's just during the
Yep.
year we have to work together to give the kid a great time, and
Yeah,
that's a great way to characterize it. Me and the parent are working together to make sure your child has a great time.
yeah.
Okay, and we do that because I'm doing my part and you're doing your part, which is to trust me. You had six
Well, and to
months
prep your kid
before
well,
registration.
like that's a
Yeah,
big
and to
part
prep
of
your kid well.
you can prep your kid badly, and then my job is impossible.
But I mean, from registration to your kid arriving, you had what, 4, 5, 6 months to reach out to me. I'm eminently available to you.
Yep.
But for this 1, 2, 4, or 8 week
Yeah.
session,
Yep.
you need to let me do what I need to do and let
Yeah.
my staff do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Uh, I wanted to ask you a question about post camp communication because I thought about this before. If we can move on there, but if you want to stay in this season, that's
Just
fine.
one quick thing. We have done previous CampHacker podcasts on partnering with parents. That's been one episode title early. I did another one with Stacey Harrison, Corey Harrison, and Stacey Simpson, talking about how to be empathetic towards parents. So I would point you back to that. Search for CampHacker feed for parents, and there are some great stuff that we've covered on this. That but I think gives you lots of other things as well. Yes, post camp, Chris. What's your question?
I was before we started, I wrote this down in my notes and then I crossed it out and then I wrote it again. But I was and I don't know, I haven't tested this. It's just something I thought about this morning. But for our staff all year, we have a Slack group,
Yeah.
like just ongoing
Yep.
communication. And back in the past when Facebook was a thing, we had a Facebook group for families. It was
Hmm.
just another way for us to deliver information and
Yep.
for them to really like excite each other by talking about how great the camp was. Fine. But I was wondering if like a more dynamic communication system for the community of parents makes sense post camp. What do you think about that? And I want to be really transparent. You and I both have um, experience with professional networks in this way that go off the rails because people start posting untested opinions, unpopular opinions, and start
Yeah.
attacking each other, and
Yep.
it can become a whole mess. But I see how helpful it is for the staff in building that community. I would just, what do you think about that? I'd love to translate something like that for the parents. I just don't know what the method or product would be.
Yes. So, I mean, this is a wonderful idea, but it's hard to execute well. There's things about building online communities that are really challenging. It takes a lot of setup time. It also takes a critical mass to make that worth checking in on. So there has to be enough conversation to make it interesting to go back. And if there's not that, then it's hard to go. And I found from building a lot of these online communities, there is a critical mass after you have 500 people who are see some value in posting some stuff there. And then you don't have to monitor it as much. You don't have to feed the discussion. So that's one part of it. I friggin' love the idea of building parent communities. I think it is awesome. I love providing a free, well, free, we're paying for it, but free to them space that parents can talk about things. If you go to, there's so many places to get perspectives on parents that we don't use. If you go to any of the parenting subreddits, it's just heart-wrenching. People are just scared, like we all know, and they're scared and worried, and they just get advice, and it's great. But that's, those have thousands of people in there, and it takes a lot of work to make sure that people aren't jerks. It's a big thing. Yeah.
That's always the thing, though, because like, do you want to moderate between your customers? It
Right.
can get really dicey.
Yeah.
Then I see the advantage in setting up things like ride boards, like
Yeah, totally.
or people exchanging information about packing lists or activities, or even like veteran parents with new parents, like
Totally
having those
partner them up,
connections.
and yeah.
I see all of that and I want it so bad. But then when I think about the moderation, when I think about
Yeah.
also, because I don't mind, I understand what you're saying about critical mass. I don't mind driving the conversation and putting the content in there and keep pulling them back in. That's fine. I prefer that rather than letting them go off sort of like unguided
Sure.
missiles.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to do it well, because the downside is that you get a group of parents in there who, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
let's just say carefully, for whatever reason, can't control themselves
Sure.
and end up either attacking each other or saying things that are untoward, either about specific kids or the camp. And then what do? Eject people? That's
Yeah.
awkward.
Right.
Still, I do think post-camp communication, like I said earlier, is really super important, because these people are now, they bought the t-shirt, they have
Yeah.
your sweatshirt, they have the
Yeah.
gear, the kids are wearing it, they're excited. You want them to talk to other people about the camp, feeding them information about the camp, and feeding them information about, getting information back from them about how their
Yeah.
kids feel about the camp. Like, that has to stay open.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, Slack or something like that, a WhatsApp group, those are one option, but I've been thinking about other options, because especially after camp is over, and
Hmm.
also we do a family camp,
Yeah.
the parents are so energized
Yeah.
and they want to talk about how their kids are different. They want to talk about how their family has been impacted. So they'll email us directly. But I'm
Right.
like, people need to see this. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to
Yeah.
make that a reality.
Right. So the thing I ask myself in that situation is, what could we do that
Yeah.
gives us at least some of that? And so what's the big effect that I want out of that? I want to continue the trust relationship with those families. I want to continue to prove that our organization is worth your family's trust. And, in some cases, I want parents to talk to each other. I want them to feel like this is a resource on parenting, not just summer camp. And so what do I bring it back? So we have a number of camps that we produce a private podcast for, that's on parenting. And so we produce it. Dr. G and I run it, and it is not a podcast that is a subtle way of saying camp is great and you should send your kids here. This is a podcast that is only on parenting, and we make it for these camps to give out to their camp families. It's not, you can't search and find it. And so that way, that camp is proving to those families, we are investing in your family. We understand that being a parent is stressful, and we have access to the resources that we can get you. And so that's one of the kind of, it gives me some of the same feelings as what a camp community, online camp community could do. Is to do something like that. I've also seen camps come together and put on, it split the cost of bringing in a parenting speaker, and invite all the different families to come and meet at this auditorium, and this person, like, so that's more trust building. That's more, we know this is hard and we have access to the resources that we want to share. So those might be some ways to get you some of the things. It's not all of them. But what are the little things that we could do like if we held a Tuesday night at 7 open discussion on Zoom on a very specific topic, like getting your 13-year-old to talk to you at dinner. And we brought in an expert to do a little thing, and then you allow parents to ask questions of that expert. Then you are providing some of that same thing. Camp is great for your family, even when your child is not here.
I am in love with that
Mm,
idea. Like, I love that. Getting back to the idea of critical mass, though, you would
yeah.
really need to make sure that the community is ready to join in.
Yep.
Like, you'd have to get them to the point
Yeah.
of, I mean, we've come full circle, right? So
Yeah.
advertising that this is happening at a particular date on Zoom,
Yeah.
making sure that they read that email,
Yeah.
and then making sure that a critical mass people show up so it doesn't peter out. But I love the idea of providing a resource for parenting, especially if you run a specialty camp like I do, where like if you run a camp specifically, in our case, kids of gay parents
Yeah.
or kids maybe who are medically sensitive
Yeah.
or who are on the spectrum or something like that, like that's a ready built community of people who want to reach out to each other for support. I
Yeah.
love that. But again, I think the issue, it's not a huge issue, but I think the critical mass issue really becomes important in considering how to set that up. You're going to need a ready amount of people. Like you would need like 100 people to capture maybe, 8 to 12%, 8 to 12 of them a month on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
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 Which is possible. I mean, some camps definitely have that population, but
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
love that idea, Travis. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and hopefully that gets you some of the feels part of that you want,
Yeah.
because you've taken the time to analyze what it is that we're looking for, and how can we, if we can't do the things we want to do, what are the things we can do that accomplish some of that? But
Fabulous. Oh, I love that. Oh,
yeah,
I'm, I'm going to do that.
right on.
I love this. This is the great thing
Also,
about
I think
CampHacker.
anybody listening should hire Chris to do this, be that guy to talk to your
Yeah,
camp parents because of
I
his
so just
education and experience and all of the lessons. He's laughing, but I'm totally
that.
serious.
No, I
Um,
know.
all of
I
the lessons that Chris has to offer your parents. Um,
I
so
think
start there. I've
I'm
got lots of people. If you want people, if you're listening and you want people to talk to, let's start with Chris, fill Chris's
yes,
schedule, and then I've got lots of resources that I
and
can
then
share
there's
with people.
yes, and I just and because I know we're probably going to close soon, but like your parents, that community of people, they're
Mhm.
your customers, they're your lifeblood.
Yeah.
Um, and you're working in partnership with them to raise these children,
Yep.
which is always how I pitch it to the parents, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it places the camp in a different kind of light when I say I'm raising your children.
Right.
I'm helping you raise your children. Like I'm a resource to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Um, and what's more, what I've discovered, especially as we've expanded to family camp, and again, I'm a specialty camp, is that the
Yeah.
parents are such a resource to each other.
Yeah.
So we talk about communication from camp to
Yep.
parent, parent to camp. I think thinking about parent to parent, and I know we covered some things in here, but we didn't really we didn't
Yeah.
come to a conclusion or like give a prescription. But I think for everyone listening, thinking about how the parent to parent communication, how that could be facilitated, is also pretty critical in boosting your camp and creating your community.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That is such a great place to wrap this up, Chris. Well done.
This was great.
Yeah.
Oh, we shouldn't have anybody else on the podcast anymore. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
We'll
kidding.
just
I
change
love
the name to
Chris and
morning
Travis
drive
talk.
time with Chris and Travis.
Let's do a drive time show, Travis.
Totally. That'd be great.
Oh man.
Uh, well, thank you, Chris. That was awesome. I want to, before we move on to our next section, I want to tell you about Camptivities, one of our sponsors and one of our great supporters. Every year for you, there are things that happen the same time when camp is running. You spend a lot of time and hours working on daily schedules for your staff and for your campers, finding out mistakes, finding upset parents or upset kids because they missed activities, and then there's a lot of stress. There is a better way to do this, and that's Camptivities. It's an activity scheduler that's specifically made just for camps. It does group scheduling or individual camping schedules and individual camper schedules. And they can do all of those things. If you have different day schedules, then no problem. Like a different day of the week or a different day of the session schedule, not a problem. You can do scheduling automatically. You can schedule electives. You can schedule in batches. Schedule. Do it the way that works for your camp. This is a product built for camp people for camp people. Within Camptivities, you have over 50 reports that you can run to see your data. When a parent calls and says, my camper didn't get an activity in this particular week, pull up the group activity tracker and see exactly when that activity was scheduled and be able to talk to that parent directly. So if it's time to modernize the way you do activity scheduling, make it easier to collaborate with your team members and get rid of the mistakes that make sure your campers are getting to all of the things they want to, look at Camptivities. They would love to show you the next big thing in camp. So visit camptivities.com to set up a time to chat. Let them help you get away from your desk and back outside to camp, and tell them CampHacker sent you. Chris, it is time for us to do our tool of the week. I love the theme for yours, so I'm going to give you first crack at this.
Okay. So walkie-talkies, camp director's best friend. It's the way I feel I'm omniscient when I've got the walkie-talkie, because from every corner of camp, people are talking to me. I took it to the next level one year because the people we rent the walkie-talkies from, they're like, "Do you want like an earpiece?" I was like, "Tell me more." They're like, like the earpiece, like a secret service, and I was like, "Stop your sentence. Absolutely, I want that." Just because, and I'm going to be really honest, since I've been very honest this episode, I just wanted to look cool. I wasn't thinking about the practical aspect, but I'll tell you, having it in I was able to get information in real time while also doing other things. Like I'd be talking to kids. Um, Meanwhile, like there'd be information pouring in about what's going on in other parts of camp, and I wasn't interrupted. Because the truth is, not everything comes over the walkie-talkie I need to attend to. But when it's just squawking out loud, if you're in the middle of a conversation with a kid, which I always think is my number one priority when I'm present at camp, is to engage with the kids. Like,
100%.
I mean, that's it, right? When it starts squawking, the kids are like, oh, yeah, they're reminded that you're there, that your job is to do a whole bunch of other stuff. But with the earpiece in and I'm hearing about what's going on at the climbing wall or at the pool and I don't need to do anything, it's like the conversation is interrupted. It's in my ear. I can ignore it. And if I really don't want to be bothered, I can just take the earpiece out without turning off the walkie-talkie, which, as you know, you turn it off because you want to have a conversation. You
And you
forget to
forget
turn it back on.
every time.
And that's when everyone breaks their legs.
Yeah.
Every single child breaks their leg when your walkie-talkies off. So it
Yep.
might seem like a really light recommendation, but trick out your walkie-talkie, get a Secret Service earpiece, and just live your best James Bond fantasy.
Yep.
That's my tool of the week.
I have also seen and have heard camp directors talk about the firefighter, actually cops have them too, the separate mic
on
piece,
your
the handpiece. So you're
on your
not,
shoulder.
yeah, totally. So you can just lean in and listen. And I think it
Yeah.
does a lot of the same things. It's more interruptive, of course, but I've seen camp directors like, yeah, can't do it without this. Can't do it without. That's wonderful. Thank you. My tool of the week is an app or a service, software as a service, called Aftershoot at aftershoot.com. Again, go to camphacker.tv/podcast for the show notes. You can find the links. Aftershoot is this amazing piece of software that will allow your staff on the daily to dump their photo cards. If you have a huge camp and a lot of photo staff, this is amazing. If you are a small camp and you have one person who is in charge of photos and they have to take photos, edit photos, put videos together, do the daily pictures of the kids, the proof of life pictures, it's chaos. But with this piece of software, you put all of the photos into it. It'll go through and take out all the ones with eyes closed or people aren't facing the camera, out of focus, gone. And then it'll go through all of them and give you a prioritized list of these are good pictures. You can train it. What I think is a good picture, I can train it more. But there's how my experience, and this relates to camp because I know camps that are dealing with thousands of photographs a day. And then they call me up with like, what do we even do with this? It's like, yes. So you can follow Joe Richard's advice, which is you tell your photographer, take thousands of photos a day, send me 10. But the amount of time to go from thousands to 10 is unreal. That is a day's worth of work. So put it in here. It does the sort. I shot a camp wedding a month and a half ago. Hey Mapes. And I was there for the whole weekend. I shot over 7,000 photos in this weekend. So I got home, I put the cards in to the thing. I let it work for an hour and a half. I heard a little beep. I went back. It showed me 1,200 pictures out of 1,000. And then it said, oh, and by the way, here are the top 500. So whatever percent that is, like 10, a little less than 10% of the photos. Here's these. And click on one of it. You took like 3 or 4 pictures in a row quite quickly, and we picked the best one of those 3 or 4. But if you want to see the others, just click on here. It'll open up. It was stunning to me the first time I used this. And now it has AI editing built in. So it'll go in and straighten the pictures and do some color adjustments, make sure everybody's face gets the light they deserve. Amazing. It's amazing.
While you were talking,
Yeah.
I sent a message to my team saying, you need to look at this immediately. This is a game changer. This will save us. I will save me personally,
Yeah.
because I'm in charge of putting the yearbook together. This will
Right.
save me personally
Yep.
about 2 full work days of time trying to cull through thousands of pictures.
Yeah.
Thank you, Travis.
You
Thank
can
you.
also then, Chris, sort by I'm building the yearbook and I need more pictures from the climbing wall, or I need some more pictures from the dining hall. And I can just search for food, eating, dining, climbing, helmets, whatever I need
I
out of
might
the
cry.
bank. And
This
it'll show me
is
the ones that are well
I,
rated.
I might cry the way that you just saved me.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's great.
Yep.
Everyone, do this now. Yes.
Yeah. I should get an affiliate link for that, but no, I'm not going to make anything
Seriously.
off of this. You go ahead and do it. It is a great, great tool. So yes, do that one. It's good. Okay, so I want to finish this off today by talking about our other sponsor, UltraCamp. So exclusive to CampHacker listeners, you can discover the best marketing tools and apps for camps by visiting ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker and downloading the UltraCamp's free guide there, the marketing toolbox. It has been updated for this year. And then we want you to ask yourself again, what is it that drew you to the camp experience? UltraCamp knows it wasn't to do paperwork. That's why they have crafted this all-in-one platform to streamline your program management. It's powerful tools that put you in control of your information. You can automate the critical processes about registration and billing. You can generate customized reports to gain the insights that help you be a better camp director, run a better camp. You can streamline your hiring process, including having integrated background checks through UltraCamp, and you can quickly communicate with your clients and donors. UltraCamp's goal is to help their clients spend less time in the office and more time doing what they love. If you want to know if UltraCamp is right for you, they offer free customized demo sessions and you can see their software in action. So please go to ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker to see that. I want to take one quick second and say, check out the Camp Owners Pod from Go Camp Pro. A great episode is launching this week featuring me. I had a great discussion with Howie and Kelly about what are the features of summer camp we are not talking about. And it was a really great discussion. So I invite you to search for Camp Owners Pod. Even if you are not a camp owner, there's tons of very valuable information in here. Chris, if people want to follow up with you, how do they get in touch?
They can reach me, chris@planetchris.net. You can find me on Instagram @planetchris1, or check me out on LinkedIn, which I should spend more time on. Chris Hudson 1.
Right on. Thanks, Chris. This has been a great conversation. I loved having you all to myself. And
I
yeah.
I'm partly serious about our drive time show. I thought this was
Okay.
great.
Yeah. Right on.
All right,
If you
Travis.
want to get a hold of me, you have ideas or things you want us to cover, reach out to Travis at camphacker.tv will work. Let's just use Travis at gocamp.pro and send me your information or questions there. Thanks for the evening, friends.